Hi booktube, this is Kelly. Thank you so much for watching my channel, Books I'm Not Reading. I'm here to do my final book review of the year for 2023, and it is a Pulitzer review of Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. If you're new to my channel, I have read all the books that have won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, previously known as the Pulitzer Prize for the novel. This year was an especially historic year because not only did Demon Copperhead win the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, but so did Trust by Hernan Diaz, which I've already read and I have a review of if you'd like to check that out. I really enjoyed Trust by Hernan Diaz. And they're very different books, very different books. I have been watching for over a year now a lot of hype and a lot of people gushing about Demon Copperhead, which always makes me a little bit nervous, especially with Barbara Kingsolver, because unfortunately, guys, I do have some history with Barbara Kingsolver. About 18 years ago, and I only can remember that because it was right before I got married, I read Prodigal Summer, a novel by her that I did not enjoy, and it was probably the wrong time of the year to read it, frankly, anyway, but it was a book club book, and so yeah, did not enjoy that. And later on, I read one of her nonfiction books, Animal, Vegetable, Miracle, and I really didn't like that book. Woo! Demon Copperhead. Unfortunately, we can't completely talk about Demon Copperhead without talking about another book, which is Charles Dickens' masterpiece, David Copperfield, which I read for the very first time in March of 2020. Helped me get through those first few weeks of the pandemic. And I really question, there's a lot of debate about like, oh, which one should you read first? Frankly, I think, unfortunately, reading these books, you're going to be thinking back to the other book. If you've read one of them, like you can't help but notice the comparisons. Barbara Kingsolver, I've heard some people describe it as like, sort of Dickens Easter eggs within the book. I think it's a little bit more than an Easter egg. I think it's pretty obvious. I don't want this to be a review of David Copperfield. But again, I can't really talk about Demon Copperhead without talking about David Copperfield. So I just want to share with you why I think maybe Barbara Kingsolver should have just been inspired by Charles Dickens rather than trying to do a retelling. This is the first line of David Copperfield, which hopefully you will have heard before. Whether I shall turn out to be the hero of my own life or whether that station will be held by anybody else, these pages must show. Which is such a wonderful, epic beginning to a book. The first line of Demon Copperhead is, "First I got born." Wow. Oh, I feel like Barbara Kingsolver, even though I haven't liked the two other books I've read by her, I feel like she is a better writer than that. There were times where I felt like the writing was lazy in this book, and that frustrated me because, like I said, I expect more from her. I think there's more in her. What Barbara Kingsolver did in this book in trying to retell David Copperfield is that she really heavily leans in to the social justice issues that, frankly, Charles Dickens talks about in pretty much every book. I'm reading A Christmas Carol right now, so he's always talking about social justice. But David Copperfield also has a certain amount of whimsy in it, and definitely has some really incredibly funny moments. And that is not part of this book. And that could be because of the direction that she took Demon Copperhead in. But you know, when you've already read David Copperfield, it's just a little bit sad, right? Like you're just like, oh, we don't get to have that moment again. Do you know what I mean? What is Demon Copperhead about? And I want to stress, I'm not going to spoil anything because, you know, I really want as many people as possible to be able to watch this and decide if it's something that they want to read or compare it with their own feelings. And I want to hear about your own feelings about this book in the comment section down below. So please let me know. Demon Copperhead is actually, his real name is Damon Fields. He's born to a young mother who has some addiction issues and in a trailer in southern Appalachia, Appalachia. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm saying that wrong. So kind of like Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, like those are the parts of America that we would think of when we think of that. I think one of the motivations for Barbara Kingsolver in putting the book there, which is where she lives, like she wanted to see people from this part of the country portrayed in literature and have a real discussion about the way things work there and the people there, and really fleshing them out. And I do think, you know, I think she did a great job of that. I think, you know, one of the strengths of this book is that there's a real conversation about hillbilly, and what does that mean and what does that make us think of, and like, do other people in the country like make fun of the people who are living where Demon Copperhead lives? I loved there's an explanation of what it means to be a redneck, which is not what you think. And I thought that was, I just really, really appreciated that. I also really appreciated Kingsolver's discussion in here about the different kinds of economies depending on whether you live in a rural location, which I do, or an urban environment. There are lots of places in America where we barter for things, or you know, we have what would normally be considered like a financial transaction in an urban environment, like we trade. So, you know, growing up, like, if somebody needed, you know, their fence fixed, yeah, like maybe you'd help them out. And, in return for that, they would give you part of their bumper crop of tomatoes, or, you know, it's not something that can be taxed. And I think that happens. I think that happens a lot more often than is even realized. So yeah, just the kind of neighborliness. What really made me want to read this book, in spite of, my God, so much hype about Demon Copperhead on booktube, aside from the fact that it won the Pulitzer, and I'm so happy that I'm caught up again and ready for this spring when they announce another one. I'm really hoping that they don't make it a habit to pick 2 a year. But I was really fascinated by the idea that this had something to do with the opioid epidemic. I previously worked in substance abuse prevention and suicide prevention. I live in a part of the country that's known as the suicide belt. And we also have an absolutely huge place in our community for people who need AA meetings, and as well as NA meetings. And for my job, I decided I really needed to go to an AA meeting and an NA meeting. And it was so painful. It was really, really difficult. Like, I left both meetings and barely made it back to my car or to the office without just like bursting into tears. The NA meeting, you know, again, the thing that's different about opioids compared to other illegal drugs, or now legal in some places, but the opioids, they permeated every class. They were not like, I think once upon a time cocaine was this like, that was the drug of rock stars and celebrities, Opioids were the first thing that really got, especially, it just started showing up in suburban America, which, again, Demon Copperhead does not live in suburban America, but you can still see how easy it is for people to get addicted to opioids. And that NA meeting I went to, a woman had surgery on her hip, and like the next thing she knew, she was addicted to the painkillers. And so, Demon, who's living this really, really, he just has to survive. Like, his life is very complicated and very out of control. And so, yeah, you can see how easy it is for people to just spiral into that. And the book also discusses these sort of pill shops where people would go, and this is true. Like, you'd go to a place, you'd walk in, you'd pay a certain fee, and for that fee, like, you'd get a prescription for Oxycontin, hydrocodone, fentanyl, and now it's out there. For my epilepsy, again, the drugs that I take to control my brain are also drugs that people want to take. So my medications are locked. And I think the opioid epidemic is a worthy topic for the Pulitzer Prize, because it has so dramatically affected our country. I'm not sure this is it. I'm not sure that Demon Copperhead is like the opioid epidemic novel that should represent, anytime a book wins the Pulitzer, I'm always kind of asking why. Why? And I do think that because that's such a critical piece of the novel, that played a huge part in it. But I wish that I think what happened is that Barbara Kingsolver was so reliant on David Copperfield that it almost became a crutch. She could have said, I was inspired by Charles Dickens' novel after novel related to social justice, and so here's my, this is my contribution to talking about social justice issues in the place where I live, the part of the country that I live. The strongest part of this book by far, though, is what we do to children in America when they are in foster care. So if you don't know, people in America, if you take in a foster child, you are compensated. That money is supposed to be how you take care of the child. But instead, many times, and I've seen this happen, many times people will take that money and they will use it to take care of themselves or to take care of their own children. It's not about the kid in foster care. And, it can be a new form of slavery. Children can be, abused, hungry, and this in Demon Copperhead is so strong. I mean, he spends an entire grade like that. He's hungry. He's so hungry, and it's hard to think that in America today that we're still letting children go hungry, but we are. I just think this makes such a strong case for why there should be more screening, more. I don't understand some of the people that I've known who have had foster children, and again, I don't think I I don't know where that money was going, but they were already living in an unsafe environment anyway, and then they were allowed to have a foster child or multiple foster children. So now we got even more kiddos living in unsafe environments. And finally, the last thing I want to say is one of the differences between Demon Copperhead and David Copperfield is what their gifts, right? Like what they're naturally good at. And Demon Copperhead is an artist. He writes comics eventually. And again, I don't think I'm giving anything away by that. You'll learn very early on that he loves to draw. And I think it would have been so cool if Barbara Kingsolver would have incorporated some like almost graphic novel kind of elements. I'm not saying the whole book, because it is a chunky book, not as chunky as David Copperfield, but I think that was just a really lost opportunity. Like I think that would have been cool and would have maybe taken the book up a notch. But anyway, so I did end up giving this book 4 stars, which I can't believe. I feel sheepish about that, but I would love to know what you think of Demon Copperhead. Please keep the comment section spoiler free for those of you who haven't read it. I'd love to know if it's on your TBR, if you plan to read it in 2024. Yeah, just let me know what you think down below. What did you love about it? If you didn't like it, again, why? So yeah, I love engaging with you in the comment section. If you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, I understand. You can leave an emoji or give this video a thumbs up, which I greatly appreciate. Booktube, remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye.